Listen to me, because no one else will tell you this. Not your friends, not your therapist, not even your lover, but I will, because I've lived it, felt it, studied it, and what I've discovered is that love never reveals itself in what a man says. It shows itself in how he breathes, in how he trembles when he touches you, in the way his body betrays the truth. His ego cannot hide, because in the silence between kisses, in the shadows of intimacy, in the breathless collapse of thought, and the unconscious speaks. And it speaks through sensation, not sound. This isn't about seduction, this is about revelation, because when a man is truly in love with you, his body becomes a confession booth and his hands become scripture. And his gaze becomes the place where his mask finally falls. Have you ever stared into a man's eyes while making love and felt like time melted, like the world around you ceased to exist, and in that infinite second you weren't being watched, you were being seen, really seen? Not for your beauty or your body, but for something far deeper. And when that happens, what you're feeling isn't romance, it's recognition. It's the collapsing of two psyches dissolving into something ancient, something sacred. And let me tell you, the eyes are not just windows to the soul, they are mirrors. And when he holds that gaze without flinching, he's not just looking at you, he's letting himself be seen. And that is one of the most terrifying things a man can do, because it means surrender. It means stepping out from behind the armor, from behind the identity, and saying, here I am, this is me. And most men run from that because we've been conditioned to perform, to chase pleasure without presence. But when love takes over, something changes. He stops running. He slows down, his gaze lingers. And in that gaze, he's no longer just making love to your body, he's revealing his soul to yours. And that's the first sign, the first unconscious act that tells you he's not just there for the moment, he's there for the meaning. And you need to understand this, because a man who loves you doesn't just want to give you pleasure, he needs your joy, like breath, like water, like absolution. Because in your pleasure, he finds himself not as a conqueror, but as a caretaker, as a priest, as a devotee. And suddenly the act becomes sacred. This is where we must separate lust from love, because lust devours and love listens. Lust takes, and love learns. And when a man loves you, his body remembers you, not just your shape, but your rhythm, your size, your subtle pulses, like a map etched into his skin. And he touches you, not to impress, but to merge. He becomes a student of your body without trying, without thinking. His anima, his inner feminine awakens, and everything slows. He begins to hear with his fingertips, to read your breath like poetry. And when he delays his own release, to watch you unravel, it's not strategy, it's instinct, it's the soul taking the lead. Because Jungian love is alchemy. It is the merging of opposites, masculine and feminine, ego and essence, self and other. And when he chooses your fulfillment over his own, it's because in that moment you are no longer separate. Your bliss becomes his reflection. Your ecstasy becomes his mirror. And in this union there is no performance, only remembering that love is not conquest, it is communion. Not transaction, but transformation. And in that space, in that holy surrender, he is telling you with every gesture, every exhale, every trembling pause, you are more than desire, you are recognition. And that is only the beginning, because the truth of his love will reveal itself even more clearly, not during the height of passion, but in what follows after. When the fire cools, when the body quiets, when the room goes still, what he does next will show you whether he was simply visiting or whether he intends to stay. Because after the climax, after the intensity has burned through your skin and the silence rushes in like a tide, what remains is the truth. And that truth does not lie in words, it lies in whether he reaches for you or retreats, whether he pulls you closer, like you are sacred text he wants to reread, or whether he turns away like a man slipping back behind the veil of ego, where performance resumes and presence ends. And I want you to feel this with me, because I've seen it in my own life, in the therapy room, In the dark moments, lovers rarely speak of the moments after the fire, when the soul is exposed and naked and waiting, and what a man does in that space tells you everything. Because when the body is satisfied, the ego sleeps. And in that vulnerable stillness, the unconscious steps forward. If he stays, if he wraps himself around you, if he whispers nothings or childhood dreams, or simply breathes against your skin like you are his anchor, his harbor, his home, then believe me, he is not pretending, he is remembering. He is remembering what safety feels like, what intimacy without armor feels like. And the psyche does not lie in that moment. He is not thinking he is being, and the beauty of it is that he may not even realize it, because the unconscious reveals love through instinct, not through intellect. And this is why those tender moments after sex are more important than any poem or promise, because they are unscripted, unrehearsed, sacred. If he strokes your hair, if he traces your shoulder, if he holds you like the storm has passed, and you are the calm, then he is saying with his body, I am still with you, not just in desire, but in devotion. And it is not a performance, it is a confession. And society does not prepare men for this level of openness. We are told to pull away, to laugh it off, to armor up. But real love undoes that. It unravels the training, it dissolves the distance, and if he is still there, fully present, forehead against yours, sharing silence like it's the most honest language on earth, then you have seen something real. Something that cannot be faked, because the post-sex moment is not just physical, it is psychic. It is the soul asking, am I safe to stay? And the answer will come not through speech, but through gesture, through nearness, through touch. And I want you to remember this. If he withdraws, it doesn't always mean rejection. Sometimes it means fragmentation. It means his heart may not know how to remain after the desire has been met. And that doesn't make him cruel. It makes him afraid. It makes him human. But you must learn to feel the difference between disappearing, softening. Because love softens. It does not vanish. It stays, it holds, it listens. And when a man remains in that sacred stillness, when he doesn't flinch from the closeness, when he doesn't rush to reassemble the mask, then he is offering you the deepest part of himself, the part that speaks not in promises but in presence, the part that says, I am not here for performance, I am here for transformation. And this is what the alchemy of intimacy is really about, not just the merging of bodies, but the melting of defenses, not just climax, but communion. And it is in this sacred afterglow that the real truth of his love emerges raw and unfiltered, and that is the second sign that his soul belongs to you. But it goes deeper than stillness, deeper than closeness, because there is a moment rarer than words and softer than skin when two lovers find themselves breathing in rhythm, moving without thinking, shifting at the same time like they are, dancing to music no one else can hear. And if you've ever felt this, you know exactly what I mean. The way your body moves and his moves with you, not after, not before, but at the exact same moment, as if something ancient is guiding the both of prayer. You and I need you to understand, this is not chance. This is not learned habit. This is what I've called participation mystique. It's the sacred merging of unconscious selves, the moment the boundaries dissolve and you are no longer two people, but one unfolding rhythm. This is what modern science tries to label limbic resonance, emotional synchronization. But long before we named it with biology, we lived it with myth, with instinct, with soul. Because when he mirrors your breath, when his exhale becomes your inhale, when he touches you exactly where you need it, without you ever speaking the need, then something timeless is happening. His body is no longer just responding to desire, it's responding to memory soul. Memory. The kind that whispers, I know you, I've known you not just in this life, but in every life, before this and in that moment. The bedroom becomes a temple, the act becomes a ritual, and the love becomes a remembering. Because this kind of Synchrony cannot be rehearsed, it cannot be forced. It only happens when the unconscious is fully awake, fully present, fully surrendered. And this is where the anima and animus dance. The divine feminine and divine masculine join, not as roles, but as essences. And this is why your limbs fit without adjustment, why your silences feel like language, why the space between you feels more honest than the words spoken above it, because you are no longer navigating through thought. You are navigating through presence. And the unconscious recognizes what the ego cannot explain. It moves toward the familiar, not the physical familiar, but the spiritual one. And when a man reaches this level of attunement, he is no longer trying to please you. He is trying to remember you. And that is not romance. That is resonance. And it is the third sacred sign that tells you his love is not performance, not persuasion, but something much older, much deeper. And it's in those moments when you feel more seen in silence than in speech, more held in stillness than in action, and you don't even know who moved first because the movement belonged to both of you at once. That is when you'll know his unconscious has reached yours, and the illusion of separateness has dissolved. And now that you've felt what it means to be touched, not just in body but in soul, let me leave you with this one truth. Real love never hides in promises. It lives in presence. It lives in breath. It lives in the sacred moments. When a man is no longer performing but remembering, when his body becomes the voice of what his mind cannot yet speak. And if you've witnessed these signs, the gaze that doesn't break, the giving that expects nothing, the silence after sex, that holds you like a prayer, the way your breath and his move, as one, then you are not just seen, you are recognized, not just wanted, but mirrored in the deepest chambers of his unconscious. And this is not fantasy, it is not myth, it is the quiet magic that happens when ego steps aside and the soul is allowed to speak through touch, through stillness, through the sacred unsaid. And if you haven't felt this yet, don't chase it, but prepare yourself for it, because love at this level cannot be found through effort, only through alignment. And when it comes, you will know, not because he tells you, but because his entire being will confess it without a single word. So now I turn to you, not as a teacher, not as a psychologist, but as a fellow traveler of the psyche. Tell me what stirred in you as you listened to this. Did it awaken something you've known but never had language for? Have you ever been loved like this? Or perhaps loved someone this way without knowing it? Share your story below, because this space is not just for content. It is for connection, for truth, for exploring the sacred terrain of human intimacy beyond the surface, beyond the noise. And if something ancient inside you whispered yes while hearing this, if you felt seen, understood, remembered, even for a moment, then stay with us. Because in the next video we will descend even deeper. We'll look at the unconscious red flags, the gestures, the silences, the avoidances that quietly reveal when love is absent, even when words say otherwise. But until then, remember, the body never lies about love. It only asks one thing of you: to listen and to feel, not with your mind, but with your soul. So now I ask you not just to react, but to reflect. What did this awaken in you? Was it a memory, a longing, a truth you've been afraid to name? Have you ever felt this kind of love, or touched someone in this way without realizing its sacredness? Share your experience in the comments, not for validation, but for communion. Because this space isn't for noise. It's for those who feel more than they can explain. And if something inside you stirred as if it had been waiting for this, then I invite you not just to subscribe, but to return to yourself. Because what we're building here isn't a channel. It's a sanctuary for the soul, for the forgotten language of the heart, for the parts of you that modern life teaches you to silence. But you can feel them now, can't you? Rising back to the surface. Because what we explore here is not content. It is consciousness. And if you stay, you may just find that love doesn't need to be chased, it needs to be remembered.